Hey everyone, how are you guys doing out there? Dana, how are you, man? Today's class is going to be about just doing a simple exercises out of your imagination, and maybe we'll squeeze in a portrait at the end. Michelle, good morning. How are you? Phoenix, how are you? Give everyone a chance to join us here today. I don't know how many people we're going to get today because it's a really nice, well, at least here. How are you guys doing out there? Dana, how are you, man? Well, why am I hearing that? That's weird. Today's class is going to be about just doing a. Hmm. How is the sound? Hi, Marie. Hi, Jill. Is the sound okay? Are you guys hearing any weird echo? Jessica, Jill, Nancy, Phoenix, excellent. So I know there's a little bit of a delay. So the first person who hears how the sound is, because I was just getting feedback into. Hi, Sandy. Sounds great here. No echo. Okay. Awesome. All right. So why don't we do this? So let me explain what's going to happen here today. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Jermaine. Awesome. Okay. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you guys for telling me about the sound. I really appreciate that. Aries. Now, Aurora, how are you? In this class, what I like to do for you guys is just to, well, one of the things, like I always try to do the live class with what people struggle with the most. And one of the things hi, David, that people sound, that people struggle with the most is understanding light and shadow. And like there are five main types of light and shadow that hit objects. And that's what I want to share with you. Yeah, that sounds good now. Okay, perfect. Awesome, awesome. So that's what I want to share with you today. So, for instance, hi Richard, in my class at the School of Visual Arts, by week 5, week 6, we're well into light and shade, and then I'll say to my students like week 7, I'm like, okay, draw a character out of your imagination and put 5 different light sources on that character. And people struggle with this the absolute most. And so, this simple little exercise that I'm going to share with you here today, this is something that you can practice in your sketchbook anytime, any place. All you need is a quick pencil and a quick piece of paper, nothing fancy. And this will be very, very important for you. So, we'll do 5 different light sources, and then I'll do a quick sketch of a model that I'm painting right now, and we'll apply the same principle to that. So enough talk. Let me start drawing for you guys, because I know at least here on Eastern Long Island, it is a beautiful day out. Really, really pretty day. So I'm sure it's you guys want to do your drawing and then maybe get out and enjoy the weather a little bit if it's nice near you. So what do we have here? I kind of just put this on the paper. I was just kind of sketching, just warming up before. So maybe what we can do for this exercise is just draw an apple. Okay, so let's draw another apple right over here. So I'm going to just quick sketch an apple. Okay, you can, so this is what I tell my students in class. I'm like, just draw a simple object. Okay, just draw a simple apple. I know that's kind of small. And now we have a figure and 2 apples. So let's do the first type of light source, which is the one that is the most frustrating for me as a teacher. When I see students choose photos that have this type of light source, I think it's really god awful, but it is what it is. Sometimes we have to draw from this light source, and the first light source is barely going to be there. Hi, Brian. Excuse me for clearing my throat there. First light source is going to be front light. So most of this apple and that stem of the apple would be kind of casting a shadow back like that. So there's almost no shadow on this apple that is a little bit more front light. So our highlight would be like right there. Okay, I know that's really tiny, and I apologize for that. I'm just trying to squeeze a bunch of drawings on this piece of paper. Now, for our cast shadow, it would just kind of be going behind that apple. Okay, and that would be our accent for the modeling factors. Now, let's just label this. Let's call this front light. Let me zoom in just a touch. That's a little too far away. Good, good, good. Okay. Let's just kind of squeeze this in. Yes, that's our peanut shape. So that would be our apple that is front lit. Now let's do an apple that has form light. And again, I want you guys to try to do this out of your imagination. So you can see that I have no reference posted up right now. So we have our very simple apple. And you should, with this apple, draw a line that looks just like that. That would be our line that separates. And now, just with the diagonal pencil stroke, we are going to shade the shadow side of that apple. You can do this with pen, you can do this with charcoal, and you can do this with paint. But the point is, and you can do this with a mechanical pencil, the point is that you practice this light and shade thing over and over and over again until it's ingrained in your mind, and the different types of light sources specifically. So this is just classic form light. And it's coming from up above. Now, I'm just doing the very, very generic light and shadow. And our cast shadow that the stem would cast on that apple would kind of go like that. Maybe there'd be like a little shadow right over there. And our cast shadow would kind of go a little bit behind the apple, just like that. And that would be our accent where the apple touches the table, maybe. Okay, so we have front light and we have form light. Now, let's throw in another light source. So let's draw another simple shape. Draw it a little bit bigger. Once again, another apple. Let's try our very best to make this apple have a couple of cleaner convex lines into the stem area. So we did form light and we did front light. Hi Ileana. Let's do side light. This one's really self-explanatory. Hi Jean, hope all is well in Paris. Sounds really nice. So side light is going to start right from our stem, and then we're going to come on down, right down the center of this apple. And maybe it's direct side light coming exactly from the side. So most of the side of this apple is going to be shadow. Just like that. Really nice. And let's just kind of keep it simple. And our shadow is going to go to the side now. Okay. Now, once again, I cannot explain to you enough how important this is for you guys to do. So every time that you look at a piece of photo reference, let's say you're like, okay, I want to draw a portrait of a young kid. I need to practice drawing young children. When you go on Google and you look for that photo, you want to always ask yourself the first question, where is the light hitting that child in that photo? That is truly most important. So I'm not really doing the modeling factors on these. I'm just doing a generic kind of shading. Let's just go a little darker with this one. Okay, a little bit more solid. Remember, solid is key. Solid shading. Let's make this cast shadow a little bit more. This cast shadow is terrible. Okay. So there's light, there's shadow, and there's cast shadow. So we have front, form, side. And now let's do top light. Okay, let's draw the apple once again. So we're going to go back into these in a moment here and just try to push them a little bit more. Let me resharpen this pencil. I know you guys bought all my Panasonic pencil sharpeners from eBay. Uh, where would the darkest dark be? Darkest dark would be where the apple touches the table. So right over here. And that is just classic modeling factors where the apple touches the table. It could also be pretty dark on the stem, okay, because the stem might be closest to the light. But honestly, Aurora, it would be right where that apple touches the table. Now, let's do another one right over here. So just very loose and fast. The accents go. Accent is where one thing touches another. So when I take these two erasers, okay, right here, and I touch those erasers together, it's not really showing well at all. But one of the darkest darks should be right there where the erasers touch. So where two things touch, i.e. the apple and the table, that's where you should have the accent. The accent is, so on a figure, like where, let me do this arm, where my arm touches my chest right over there, that should be the accent, okay? Now, let's do this one with, what did we say it was going to be? It was going to be top light. So our light is going to, here's our line that separates the light from the dark. I honestly feel that this is the most fundamental exercise that you could practice. It seems so boring, doesn't it? It's like, oh God, he's drawing apples. I'm here on a Saturday morning, and Matt is boring me to death with these apples. The point is this. I'm just doing this with this very, very simple object to be able to do this a little bit faster for you. Sure, you can do this with anything. You can do this with the figure. You can do this with hands. You can do this with a portrait. And it's just important that you do this. And you do this in your sketchbook on a regular basis. Okay, so top light. We could make this go up a little bit higher. And the whole front slash underplane of this apple is going to be in shadow. So top light, that means the front plane of that stem, and the underplane of that stem would be catching a little bit of shadow. And our cast shadow would look very similar to the front light. Okay, so we have front, form, side, top. And our cast shadows are kind of appropriate. Now, let's do one more, okay? So one more, let's do rim light. And rim light would be, let me just try to loosen up a little bit over here. Don't want to draw a pumpkin, I want to draw an apple. So rim light would be coming from this direction. And now we're going to have a skinny little light hitting the apple right there on the side. Okay. And look at how much looser that apple is than the other ones. Oh my God. It's like two different people drew that. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's just amazing how we tighten up sometimes for no reason. So now let's shade the whole front plane of that apple because the light is coming from the side. But side back, right? So I'm looking, I have all my blinds closed today, so I kind of only have two light sources hitting me, but yeah. Usually I have a rim light hitting me. It's blue coming from the other window over there. So this would be our rim light. And now the rim light's coming from the back a little bit, right? So, okay, cool. Now our cast shadow would be coming in the front a little bit more. Just like that. Accent would be here. We're not really doing model and factors, we're just doing light. So those would be some 5 different light sources that you're going to encounter a lot. So when you go on Google and you look for a photo to draw, again, whether it's a portrait or you go on Google and you look, well, you don't want to go on Google and type in the figure. You'll find some stuff that it's a little inappropriate. And that's okay. If that's what you're into, that's just great. But go to an art website that has photos for drawing of models, nude models. If you type in nude model on the internet and Google, you're going to have a crazy day. But I digress, okay? So just when you pick your photo, just analyze it before you spend an hour or 2 hours drawing the photo. Hi, Philip. Hi, sir, my man. Yeah, so it's just you analyze and you become a master at understanding how light hits form. What type of light are you drawing? So when you look at the photo reference or you look at the model in the classroom, if you're in a life drawing class, or now what is happening, there's a lot of online model sessions that you can draw. Yeah, that's funny. So, yeah, like I can't even say that. Is it Crowquill Cafe? If you go to Crowquill Cafe, that's a funny one. I know the site that you're talking about. They have some pretty good photos. And you look at the model. Is it front light? Is it form light? Is it side light? And is it top light? Or is it rim light? And what would be the best light for you to draw? Okay, that's the question you want to ask yourself. And each one of these light sources, as ugly as this apple is just really ugly. How to deal with the shading part. Okay, I'll do that. It's each one of these light sources has an emotion connected with it. Okay, so rim light has an emotion connected to it. It's a really slick light. Right? It's usually a light that's on a lot of movie posters. A lot of comic book covers have rim light. Front light is just what you get with a generic, you take a snapshot with an old-fashioned camera and the flash hits the person. It's front light. Form light is very Rembrandt. Top light is very heavenly and a godly light coming from up above. Side light involves like a lot of drama. So you could, if you want to do a portrait of somebody and you're the type of artist that likes to tell a little bit of a story with your illustrations, with your portraits, you could choose which light source to light your model with. It doesn't need to always be form light, okay? It could be any light source that you choose. It's just you want to be aware of the light sources and you want to practice them. So somebody asked me about the shading part. Mr. ABA, Mr. ABBA, a group from the 70s there. Okay, so what I'll do, Chris is asking me to summarize the model and factors. Form factors is a shorter way to say it. So this apple is the worst one, and it's probably because my hand is off of the pad. So I hate, excuses. I hate when I'm drawing on my pad today, not a piece of paper. I should get rid of my pad, and I'll do that right now. And this piece of paper is taped onto this pad. So when you just put a piece of paper like this on your drawing board or foam core, that's what I'm drawing on right now, foam core. It's pretty hard, and the paper doesn't have any cushion. And when you draw in your pad, it has a better feeling versus just taking like a random sheet of paper like this and putting it down on a board. When you do that, it has no cushion. So it's a good idea for you to put some pieces of paper, which is what I'm doing right now, underneath, and it acts like a nice shock absorber for your pencil, believe it or not. It has a really nice feeling. Okay, awesome. So now let me see if I can't take this really disgusting looking apple and shade it a little bit. So our top light apple. So let's be a little looser. Let's see if we can't make a lemonade out of this lemon. It's not a lemon. It's so I'm just, you see what I'm doing? I'm going over, trying to be loose, convex, loose, curvy. Okay, curvy. So you can take a really stiff drawing and make it looser just by going curvy with this stuff. Now, see how that just improved that apple a little bit? It's still kind of an ugly apple, but it improved it a lot. Okay, top light. Now, let's model. So this is where you're going to do that darker value. I like to call this the dark halftone. Just right here. Okay. Now let's turn this apple into a red apple. Okay. So now we're going to take into effect not only the model and factors, but we're going to take into effect the local value of the apple. So let's say maybe that is a yellow. Is it Macintosh? I'm really bad. Lately I've been eating so bad. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Some people are sharing different websites with photo reference. I remember you got us to do the apples on PTO many years ago. Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the last videos that I filmed on PTO. Okay, a couple people are sharing different websites. So let me kind of keep going with this apple. So we're going to do not only the model and factors, but we're going to do the local value. So I'm going to just shade, shade, shade. I'm doing a circular pencil stroke right now. And I'm going to just, it's still top light, but it's a red apple. So I want to get rid of the white paper because I'm thinking about the local value and I'm thinking about the model and factors. So as soon as I do that value now on the top plane, it lost its power in terms of the light, right? Why? Because the light is the same value as the shadow. So now what we need to do is we need to get rid of the light value on the shadow side. Okay, so just taking a little bit of time here. I'm not going to use the brush or anything like that. Just going old school with the pencil here today. So just dark halftone. Let's turn this into the light. Light's coming from up above, top light. Just, I'm doing a circular pencil stroke right now. Okay, good. And let's just go a little bit more solid. Now we could have a reflection hitting the bottom of the apple, but we just don't want it to be as light as the top. Now with this pencil, it just takes me a little while to get that solid value. And again, I can't tell you enough how important this is for you to practice. I know I'm repeating myself today, but with all the people, with all the coaching, all the group critiques, all of my students at the School of Visual Arts, people struggle with this concept the most. So I don't have any reference. I do have the one reference of Miriam that I'm going to maybe try to draw next. So you see the difference now, how we did the local value, a red apple, and it looks a little bit more powerful. Okay, so let's see. Let's add a couple striations here. How do you know which shade and strokes to use? Well, time will dictate what type of shade and strokes I would do. So if I had all the time in the world, first I would block in with no shade and strokes. So and style also dictates to you what shade and strokes you're going to use. And then maybe on top of the tone that I have here on this top lit apple, I can come on in with some round strokes with some convex lines. I could shade around the apple, or I can make it so you don't see any shading strokes. A lot of that really depends on your style. Yeah, shading just, it starts, this is how shading starts. It starts with a diagonal pencil stroke. And this is the easiest way to shade, in my opinion. Just use a diagonal pencil stroke just like that. And that is called blocking in tone. And then I'm just using a circular scribbling pencil stroke right there on the edge. Okay, so I'm drawing a little bit more with tone today and not so much with the line. See, this is a little bit more linear. This is tonal. This is just a suggestion of form light in a very light way. So this is how I like to do my figure drawings, where it's very loose like this. If I'm doing like a 5-minute figure drawing, I'm just going to be very loose with my shading. I'm going to maybe block in on a diagonal, and then I'm going to go on top of that with all of my loose line. Okay. It depends on the drawing that I'm doing. If I'm going to use tools, I'm not going to use any tools today, but you could use a brush like this. I don't like so much to smudge with my fingers. I would rather just use this brush to start to blend a little bit. It would take it to a whole different place, which I don't want to do. You could use a blend and stump in a minimal sort of way, but even that I would kind of shy away from today. So you can see this is our generic red apple with top light. Now, if we want, we could come on in with a kneaded eraser and just give it a little bit of a highlight. So right on the top. And make the line on the top of the stem a little bit lighter. Okay, and I think we need to make this top lit apple have just a little bit of texture. So texture comes after form and light. And texture is just a different pencil stroke direction. Nothing more and nothing less. Same thing with painting. So I'm using different pencil strokes right now to show perhaps some different texture. And I'm going to go just a wee bit darker with my dark halftone. So the darker I go with the shadow, the more dramatic the piece is going to look. And let's go a little bit more dramatic with the apple. Shadow, cast shadow. This is our accent. Now, you can do this out of your imagination because it's a great exercise. You've all seen apples before. They've probably been around you since you were a little kid. Okay, you go to the supermarket and they're there. So this is a good exercise because it's not intimidating. It's not like I'm sitting here trying to draw like a figure or a portrait that could be very intimidating out of your imagination. You just want to start with the simple shapes. And the apple is as simple as it's going to get. And it provides you with a really nice opportunity to incorporate some convex lines. I'm just going to make this guy a little rounder over here. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, the side light, I could come on in. So maybe this is a lighter apple. And I could just model a little bit. See, I'm holding my pencil a little differently. I'm doing that because I don't want to smudge that. I want to keep my lights light, and I want to keep my shadows shadowy. So I don't want to go too much in the light. But I do want to turn this thing a little bit more. Now I'm just using a circular pencil stroke to help turn it. Yeah, your new museum, the supermarket. So this really is a, a no frills, bare bones. It's like it. You can go to the gym and you can use all the really expensive um, equipment to work out, or you can go in your backyard and do push-ups and jumping jacks and keep it simple and run around the backyard and you can get in shape. Just as much shape versus going to the gym and using all the fancy equipment. And that's what this is. Just practicing with no equipment. It's just bare bones. Anybody can do this. Okay, so here's our side lit apple with a little bit of modeling and not much modeling. And now we can light that side. So we're thinking about light and shade a lot. Just generically side lit. Let me just work on this one a little bit more and then we'll move on to something else. Now, what did I not include with any of these? Well, I did not include a background tone. Okay, the background tone is, yeah, when I say turn it, make it rounder. So over here, I can start to add. I'm not a big fan of this apple either. Let me get my bridge. So this bridge I'm going to use just so I don't smudge. And understand there's distortion. Remember, I have to always say that because I hate the distortion that the video camera kind of creates. Hey, Michael. So now I could shade this way. Let's shade around. Still trying to keep it side lit. I'm being a little bit more stylized now. And okay, so don't like that edge. So we just kind of turn that apple a little bit. You could break the line over here if you'd like. Okay. And now you also have some pretty good. This would take me a while to shade in. I don't want to bore you all to death with you watching me push the pencil around like this for hours. Now, this side light line should wrap around. I have it going straight up and down, and I think that's the problem why it doesn't look as round as it could look. It needs to wrap around the side, the line that separates the light from the dark. Hey, Joseph. Awesome. Yeah, the solid shapes. Brian was mentioning he tried the solid shapes with the landscape from last week. I think we did the landscape. I think. And the solid shapes help so much. Okay, now if I wanted to, I can give this a value and not have it be just white paper. Just turn it a little bit. Yeah, slowly but surely. Let me resharpen. Cool. How can we loosen this up? How do we loosen things up? We scribble, just like this. This is how we loosen things up. So you could scribble just like this, and now roll in to what you're drawing. And just scribble a little bit. And we can try to loosen up with round circles. Round is loose. some round strokes. So you see how that loosened that apple up a lot. So just be a little bit more messy. Let's add some texture. Okay, over here, let's be a little bit more sloppy with it. Add some texture, top light. And so this is just your quick sketch, a little bit of value, very loose here. Try scribbling. Okay, so again, I'm going to just reiterate once again, try this. Okay, practice this at home in your sketchbook and be aware of these 5 common light sources. Now, there's plenty of other light sources. You can do a combination rim light and form light. Okay, you can also do light coming from below on a portrait, and that's a little scary, but you can do that. There's all different types of lighting, but these are the most common. So the ones that I did not include, and I'll do them very quickly for you right here. So this would be on just a simple sphere, backlight. So light is coming from behind the apple, but I'm not going to draw a full-blown apple for you. And our cast shadow would look something like that. And our dark would be, the whole object would be primarily in dark. Now, why is this important that I'm showing you backlight? Because I've seen this like in the classroom over and over and over again, where I have students and they're around the model, and I only have a couple of different lights, and a student will get backlight and they won't move. They will not move for whatever reason. And I'm like, you should really move. You have backlight. It's really terrible. The whole body is kind of like in shadow. And this has its purpose. So if you're doing backlight, it's going to be maybe for a villain, or to show, if you're trying to tell a story, this person is hiding their identity or something like that, and you can do a backlight. It could be maybe for an illustration, and what story would you tell with a backlight? So let's just call this one backlight. And what other light? Backlight is a terrible light unless you're using it for a specific reason, and that specific reason would be for illustration and to help to tell a story. Yeah, you guys got to practice this. And again, the hardest thing is when I have students in a classroom and say, okay, draw me your favorite character, because they're all animation students. Draw me your favorite character and put a light on them. So I want them to be lit, and put them into an environment. And you can show me the light source. Maybe the light source is a lamp. Maybe the light source is a window. Or you don't have to show me the light source, but just put them into an environment. But I want them to have light and shade. So there's all these things that come into play. There's the modeling factors. There is the value ratios, which is what's the local value of your character. Are they a dark character, a middle tone character, or a light character? Okay. And then the light source. And these things are, when you keep piling on top of, so light source, local value, the value ratios, the modeling factors. Then there's other things like what's the story that you want to try to tell. All of this could start to get more and more complicated. So let's just do backlight. And then obviously the other light. Do I have room? Let's do it up here. The other light would be light coming from below. So you'd see no cast shadow, but the stem of the apple over there. You'd see no cast shadow. On that, because the cast shadow is up in the air. So that's from below. These are the most common. Now, what I see people doing is drawing a portrait with front light. And it's okay, but it's better with form. Okay. And so I hope this helped you a little bit. We're about 40 minutes in. I was going to uh, maybe draw a quick portrait, not with details, but just a quick study. But make no mistake about it, I wanted to make today's class about more of an exercise for you and not so much me doing a drawing for a gazillion hours where you're going to watch me rendering and all that. Because I have a lot of that on the website and I have a lot of that all over the place. But in today's class, I wanted to give you an exercise that I feel you really need to practice. Okay? So maybe what we'll do now, just give me a show of hands. You want me to work on a portrait for like 20 minutes? Hey, WizArt. For a portrait, the best light would be form light. What I like to do with portraits is modify. Yes, for learning how to draw, and to answer your question in a simple way, for learning how to draw and getting the maximum 3-dimension out of the face and the head that you are drawing, form light is the best. I like to do a combination of form light and front light because sometimes with form light you get a long cast shadow under the nose, and if you're doing a painting of a young woman, a young girl, and you get the long shadow under the nose, it kind of looks like a mustache. Okay, so that is something that you do not want. So what I'll do is I'll take the light and I'll adjust the light. So instead of having the light, so on form light, I think the most important lesson in all of DTO is if you go to the Begin Here Step-by-Step course and you go down to light sources and you download that PDF of the light sources, that's the most important PDF and the most important lesson on the entire website, I feel. Okay, because light is just such it confuses people so much. Now, form light, your light would be up. So let's just do like a quick light source here. It would be shining down. So it's up above the apple and to the left. So to the side and up above. With the lighting that I like to do, I lower the light, Aurora, to make it a little bit lower. And when you lower the light source, you don't get that long shadow under the nose. Okay. And that is really the way that I like, the type of light that I like to do. So I literally set the model up, set my camera up, take the light, make it form light, and then I lower the light source until I get the right shadow under the nose. Yeah, you got it. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. Hopefully this helped, right? And let's see, we're 45 minutes in. So let's see if we can't sketch out a quick portrait. And I'm going to take a piece of paper. Well, you know what? I don't want to draw on top of the apples. We're going to put this aside. And the same thing goes with drawing the figure. I'll do this very, very, very quickly for you. So you could just draw a torso. Just like this, as my dog snores. Okay, just get in a quick torso. Oh boy, she's really snoring. I hope you guys can't hear her. And now sternum, bottom of the rib cage, navel, front of the pelvis. Let's just turn this into a statue at the Met. Oh my God. Tell me, hopefully you guys can't hear the dog snoring. Okay, so there's our quick like little torso. Okay. Yeah, it totally works with environments, because environments, you have to ask yourself the question, WizArt, is what is the time of the day? Is it noon? If it's 12 noon on a sunny day, it's top light. If it is 6 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun is setting, it's starting to become side light. Okay, so 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon might be form light. So the time of the day is the light source. Now, let's say we have this figure here, and we're not going to draw the whole figure. We're just going to do a quick like little torso with shoulders. Yes, she's okay. Good. You can't hear it. Thank you, Michelle. She's just been really obnoxiously loud lately. One of my French bulldogs, when we got Chloe, we did this surgery that kind of just opened up her breathing airway a little bit, and she doesn't snore. But we didn't do this with Truffles because Truffles was really sick when we bought her, and she couldn't have that surgery. So, okay, here's our torso. It's generic. Let's just do a quick indication. What light source do we want? Let's give it form light. So we come over here. So form light is coming from this way. So we have this light line that separates, goes to the center of the breast. How do I know that? Because I've drawn a gazillion, I'd say thousands of figures over all the years that I've been teaching. And with the form light, the light always goes in the same spot. So around a rib, side of this torso, under the stomach, lower abs, I should say. And so that would be our quick line that separates. And now on the figure, you just do the generic diagonal pencil stroke. So if you're not into doing the apples are too boring for you, and you're like, oh God, apples, I hate fruit. You do the figure with the light. And you shade on the diagonal. Okay, now, bottom of the pelvis, this leg over here, line that separates is just a simple cylinder. So that would be our form light on that little torso. Okay, now the light's coming from up above, right? It's form light. So now you would say, oh, okay, underneath that breast, a little bit of shading. Underneath that breast, a little bit of shading. This section of the abs at the bottom of the rib cage, a little bit of shading, but I don't want it as dark as my shadow. Okay, now underneath this plane of the navel, and then perhaps over here, I can adjust that. And this leg is turning under, so it would not be as light as the chest. I'm going to have to get up and in a moment maybe and shake the dog. So that is very much how you can do the same exercise with shading with the body. Okay. So let's try the portrait. Let me rip a sheet of paper out of this pad. Oh. Okay. I'm gonna boot Truffles out of my office. Okay, because I can't do a live stream with snoring. Give me a moment. I'll go get her and we'll say hello to Truffles. Okay. So I'm gonna have hair all over me right now, but yeah, she's all tired. She's all pissed off. Hey, Truffs, what's going on? Put her in the actual screen. Yeah, let's tuck her tongue back in. All right, it's getting dried out. Okay. When you study figure drawing, do you study the skeletal system and muscular system, or just draw the figure drawing from the model? Well, you need to do both, okay, Aries. And the thing that you have to understand is that anatomy, if you just start to practice and study anatomy, that is not going to help you with your figure drawings. If you practice form and light and shade and gesture, and then anatomy is your side study, then you will improve. If you just start studying anatomy, you won't improve as quickly as studying the other things first. So let me put her down. Hey, Truffs. Truffs. Okay, she's out of here. She's snoring too much. I'll be right back. So the thing with truffles is that when you pick her up, you get full of hair. Okay, now let's do a portrait. And let's switch. Now, I'm going to need you guys to tell me if you hear an echo. Okay, so let's do this. Cool. Yeah, so does anybody hear an echo? Is the sound the same for you guys? No echo. Thank you, Michelle. I really do appreciate that. No echo. Thank you, Aura. Okay, so we have Miriam up. And okay, thank you so much for letting me know that the sound is good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now we look at Miriam. Let's just deal with the head and shoulders. Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. When we look at Miriam here, head and shoulders, I'm going to call it form light. Why? Because the front of her face is catching light and the side of her face is in shadow. So form light promotes the form, right? And so we see, what else do we see when we look at Miriam's portrait? We see the cast shadow under her nose, okay? So it's below her nose, which means the light is coming from up above. Now, this seems so commonsensical. You're like, I know this, Matt, but again, you have to think about this the most when you're choosing your photo reference, and you need to start to become like a master at understanding light, because light is magic and light is what will make your artwork that much better, okay? So we look at Miriam, and when I took the picture of Miriam in the classroom, I lit her with a spotlight that is above and to the right. So the light is coming from the right. Now, let's just try to sketch her out. Okay, let me let my camera focus. And I need to draw her a little bit bigger. I should have zoomed in. But for members of DTO, I'm going to put this on the website. If this picture should already be on the website under the facial features section and how to draw eyes, specifically how to draw both eyes together, that particular lesson, this photo should be there. But I will put this under the live stream video later today. And just a side note, before I start to sketch, I'm all caught up on the website in terms of adding all of the extra lessons for the live stream videos, because sometimes I film after class. So form light makes your portrait three-dimensional. Yes, most definitely. Because everybody has a, I wish I had a little block. I do. Talk about getting lucky. Jeez. It's top part of my easel. Okay. Every face has a front and a side. So now you can see the light is coming from up above, and it's form light. So the side is catching light, the other side's catching shadow. So if I go like this, this is really form light. Top catching light, front catching shadow, side catching light, but not as bright as the top. Okay, so even just drawing a simple object, so now it's kind of front lit. So the light, the side and the front are kind of the same lighting. So it's the way that you turn the object towards the light will dictate to you also, because you could have two different people with one light source, and if somebody turns their head, it's going to be a little different. Okay, let's start. Let me just start to draw Miriam here, and I don't want to go too big. I'm just trying to place her. Let's go a little higher. Okay, right here. Now, Do you guys? I don't. You can't see it. I'll get it before the end of the live stream. So just let's do a quick head. We'll start with the angles. I should be doing this bigger for you, and I'll try to do that right now. So this angle, this angle, this angle, that angle, side of her head. Side of her head goes into her neck, into her shoulder. Now, her jaw, where her ear is, here, and so that's a quick sketch of her. Angle. Let's refine some angles. Her mouth comes out a little, then in, then her chin. Her chin is very round. Okay, let's focus in on the jaw. All right, cool. So that would be my first go through. Now, what did we do a couple weeks ago with the portrait? We did shape of hair. Get that little part area. This comes down. Shape of hair. And let's get her ear. I think I've got her a little too wide, but that's okay. Let's keep going. Let's get in her neck. And sternomastoid comes all the way down, keeping it light. Her neck and her ponytail. And let's get that in right now. Okay, so that's my quick sketch of Miriam. So we did that fairly quickly. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But let's keep going. So now, where's the light? Where's the line that separates the light? What's the light hidden, Miriam? It's totally form light. And we could start, is this a picture or not? Or a straight model? Wait, is this a picture of a straight model? Not sure what you mean, Annie. Where on the site is the form light lesson? Well, Aurora, what I would recommend that you do is you go to the begin here step by step, log in, you're on the dashboard, go to the begin here step by step course, go down to light sources. And light sources is a great lesson. If you can watch, I call it the screencast video. It's the first video in light sources. And then download the PDF. That is really, really important. Yeah, this is a photo. Miriam doesn't want to be with me on a Saturday morning. She's probably doing yoga right now. Oh, no, no, not a live model. Not a live model at all. It would be great if I had a live model because I like drawing from live models so much better. Okay, I got you. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. I wish. Hopefully in September we get back. So right here, guys, I'm drawing the line that separates. It's very faint here. It's where the front meets the side. It's right here, that line that separates. Can you see that on her? How far away is that from her ear? Now it comes down over here, and it starts to go on the underplane. Okay, so now what are we going to do? I don't really see it so much on her hair, but I'm going to force it here This is our top to bottom line that separates the light from the dark. Okay, come on down. And now we pick it up over here. This is our cast shadow that the head is casting on her neck. Just like that. It wraps around the cylinder of her neck. Cool. And wraps around over here. So now we have our line that separates. So what are we going to do? What have I been repeating over and over, because I'm kind of very repetitive with what I say, is we are going to do a diagonal pencil stroke if and only if this is going to be a tonal drawing. I could keep this a line drawing and not do any shading whatsoever. So this side of her head, now there's a little light hitting the top of her ear, and I'm going to try to protect that. Make it solid. Come all the way down. Merge this into her neck. So the local value of Miriam's skin, she is a light skin tone. So that's going to be the value ratio. I could go darker, but right now I just want to go solid. Solid, in my opinion, is more important with shading than matching the value for this quick sketch. So do you see how that works? That is identical to this ugly thing with the apples. Very ugly apples. I just can't believe that's what I drew for you guys. I really do apologize. It's horrendous. Yes. Front light, form light, side light, top light, back light, rim light. Form light. And I don't even know what I did with my other drawing. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh, maybe it's underneath this one. Form light. Front of her face, side of her face. Front of her forehead, side of her forehead. Okay? Now, her head is casting a shadow on the ponytail. So let's shade the ponytail. And there's a little bit of negative space. Usually it goes, what do I practice most of the time? It usually goes in waves. When I'm teaching at the School of Visual Arts, I'm doing figure drawing practice every single week. When I'm not teaching at the School of Visual Arts, I still draw the figure from photos, because I make it my business to photograph models every semester, so I have new photos to draw from. And so, yes, when I'm teaching, I definitely focus more on the figure. When I'm not teaching, it's a little bit more portrait. It's a little bit more drawn from photos. And yeah, so hopefully that helps. It goes in waves. It goes in waves. Now, let's say I wanted to start to, I kind of want to leave it like this. I really do, because this kind of is going to sum up the whole lesson. Let me go get an underpainting for you. I'll be right back. It's right behind me. So this is, I'm going to have to zoom out. Oh, no, that's not bad. So this is an underpainting that I filmed for the website of Miriam. Same photo. I just did this yesterday. It's going to be like a 5-lesson, maybe 6-lesson underpainting that I will be putting on DTO. And it's all filmed. All the voiceovers are, there were no voiceovers. I filmed it in real time. And so what I'll do next, it's still a little wet. Yeah. What I'll do next is I will do the painting of Miriam, and I'll film that. But this is the first layer, and I started the same way, and I have it started from scratch on this light board here, and I'm really looking forward to putting this on the website, and I'm really looking forward to finishing this painting and making it look like her. And it's the same principles, whether you're doing pencil or you're doing paint. And you can see right over here, we have our line that separates the light from the dark. And same principles. We have the line that separates the light from the dark right over here. So we have our light side and we have our shadow side. And then when we start to, you got it, Aurora. Thanks for joining. When we start to draw, it's then just drawing this shape, this shape, this shape, and this shape, that shape, and that shape. So there's like 6 shapes on her face. And so I'll do that. We'll close out this live class today with just kind of getting in the very simple shapes. But this is what I'll be posting to the website. I don't know. I already filmed the underpainting part. It's just a matter of getting it on the website for you guys. So now if I wanted to start to sketch out the features, it's just a matter of picking a section and suggesting. So look at the distance from the cast shadow under the nose to the edge of the face. Go soft with it at first. Suggest. Okay, awesome, Sandy. Look forward to seeing it in the critique gallery. Suggest before you commit. That might be too low. Look at her chin and where is her lip. Yeah, you can start with figure drawing, because the regular objects is going to be very boring. Cast shadow under that lip. I think that's a little too high. Now, don't look at the eyebrow. Don't look at the eye. Look at this cast shadow under the eyebrow and suggest it. Oh, so from form shadow, then you go way up for the other shade, and yes. Any object that catches light, like my bridge, you always have to do from top to bottom. It's top to bottom light, top to bottom shadow, top to bottom light side, top to bottom shadow. You can't have pockets of just light in the shadow. It needs to be from top to bottom. So let's just suggest. Look at the shape of the forehead when you're doing the eyebrow. That's kind of a shadow. This is a shadow that starts to go into the side plane. Angle of the... Here's the angle of her hair. And where is the angle of her eyebrow in relationship to that? So that looks too long for me. Let's keep going. This is just a shadow shape. Look at the forehead. Maybe what I need to do is drop the hair ever so slightly. And her eye is wider. And let's go to the side plane right here. Angle. That's just a shape. Connect it with the other side. Kick out her brows. I'm sorry, her lashes. So this is how I would start to map it out. Doesn't mean it's correct what I have here. It's not correct at all. But this is how I would do it. Shadow, cast shadow. Lip needs to be lower. So let me erase that out. So this is the same thing we did with the apples. It just takes a little bit more concentration. Okay. Anybody have any questions before we close this live stream out? Her nose is much longer. Yeah. I'm not going to concern myself too much with this one with the exact measurements. I just wanted to do a quick head for you. So now if I was going to do a long drawing, I'd fuss with the measurements. So this would be lower. I'd cling on to this angle over here. Alternatives to the Colorase. Okay, I organized my studio and I put all of my art supplies in one central location. You got it, Michelle. And I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of pencils that I never, ever, ever use. So I have all these Derwent drawing pencils, graphite. I never use them, but it's a high quality. Best simple practice for learning shadows is just to do something like what I'm doing right here. Do the apple or do a portrait that has form light and don't draw the features, but just draw the shadow shapes. That would be the best. Okay, I'll answer that in a moment with a figure. So I like these Derwent pencils. They're really, really good. So I would recommend those. I don't draw with those. I also, for life drawing, use these pencils, these Derwent drawing pencils. They come in different colors, and they're like a black crayon. So I do have a ton of art supplies. I don't use a lot of different ones. I just pretty much use the Colorase. So my answer is really you got to do a little bit of experimentation. I mean, for many years I drew with a mechanical pencil. And I'd say in most of my 20s, I just drew with a mechanical pencil. It was the only thing that I used. And actually, thank you, Anna, for joining. I actually was made fun of by so many teachers. Like, they're like, why are you doing the figure with a mechanical pencil? Like, it's just totally, they were right. It's the wrong pencil for life drawing. It's better for doing like drawings in your studio. So there are a lot of alternatives. You could also try, which if you bear with me here for a moment, these are really nice pencils as well. They're really high quality. The Koh-i-Noor, and these are really good for doing life drawings because the graphite is just so soft and you can cover so much area so quickly. Now, again, with the figure, Brian, who answered? Okay. Kari Art asked me, I think this was said already, but should one start with anatomy, skeletal studies, or gesture learning the figure? I'm a big believer in first doing just life drawings or drawings from photos of the figure, and then taking each week studying one muscle or one bone. You start with the bones. Yeah, I get that. Okay, when you're doing real portrait, do you do your shadow shapes and then wait? Do you do shadow shapes and shade form first or details? It's kind of so you could start this way because it's very light and it's very, very easy to erase. And now what I would do is I'd start to do the details. So I can say, all right, I've got that light kind of impression of her. And now I can start to do the details and all of the things that I've done here, if they're wrong, could erase away very quickly. So I like to start, If it's a long drawing, I like to start with softness first. And go from there. So you can really just very easily start to do details on top of softness. And so I know that this needs to be dropped. Now with the figure, I can do something very quickly here for you. Let's see here. So this is fun. I got to admit, I love this photo of Miriam. It's great. That just needs to be dropped. All of this needs to be dropped. But let me leave it and let me address the figure drawing question. Cool. Okay. So with figure, I could, and I promise you I will close with this today. Sometimes I'll just start with the figure with details. Let me get. Bear with me. So I could start with the figure here on the lat muscle and just come on down and start immediately to do details with line with no tone. So a lot of this really depends on your style of how you want to draw as an artist. And I'm drawing form, right? But I am not doing shading. And we can keep going here a little bit. Yeah, so what makes your drawings dimensional is the round lines. Round, round, round. Round lines. Round lines everywhere. Okay. And I have room for this. You are using one graphite pencil grade to form shadow. Yeah, I only like to, again, I apologize for being a bit of a broken record, but I don't like to use multiple pencils when I draw. I think your touch should be in your hand. So in your hand, you should be able to go dark with your hand, not the pencil, and go light with your hand, not the pencil. So some people will, that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Some people will use a 6B pencil to go dark and then use a HB pencil to go light. I just did the same thing with one pencil. So that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But I teach my students and we make a joke of it. I'm like, you have to kind of develop your lover's touch, right? And your lover's touch is that soft touch, like kind of like what I'm doing right here. I'm drawing the front of the pelvis and lower abs. Front of the pelvis. So you could do the detail with line like this. It's just you need some years of constantly drawing the figure. So now form lines. Now, you guys have asked me, and I'm kind of having fun drawing this little figure right here. What should I study first, anatomy or gesture? And my answer is anatomy is your long-term study. So each week you practice studying a bone. Start with the collarbones, do the clavicle. I wouldn't start with the rib cage, although that's the most logical place to start. It's just too complicated, and it's going to get very frustrated, and you're going to be like, what am I doing? This is too much. So start with simple collarbones, scapula, femur, very simple bones like that. And then you try to superimpose the bones on what you're drawing. So over here, collarbones, clavicles. So maybe this would be clavicle right here. And I'm not going to draw the whole thing out, but on a female, clavicles are kind of short and level. Not short, more level, not as curvy. So you study the collarbones, the clavicles, and then you try to draw them on the figure. And then, okay, let's understand that now we have the sternum. And the sternum is here. That's the front part of the rib cage, okay? And so you would start to superimpose these elements on top. So here's a few ribs, and then you study all the bones first, and then you study the muscles. So muscles would be, oh, okay, here's a serratus anterior, here's a serratus anterior, and they're on the side there. And, oh, here's our lat muscle kind of coming up the side. This would be our oblique. And once you do this for years, you memorize it. This is the pubic bone right over here, bottom of that torso. Let's turn this into another finished statue. Okay, and then after you do your bones, you move on to the muscles, okay? So now muscles would be, okay, cool. Here is our deltoid. And your deltoid attaches to 1/3 of your collarbone, the outer edge. And over here, our deltoid. And deltoid is like an ice cream cone shape. So you can do your form. Just like that. So that's how I'll do a figure drawing in class. And I don't really have time to do long, drawn-out tonal drawings of the figure. I draw with the figure like in class when the students are drawing for demonstrations, and then I'll draw for like 2 hours with the model after class. So I'm usually doing line drawings like this, okay? And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, okay, let's do some shadow shapes, and I'll come on in and say, oh, there's a little shadow shape over here, and maybe I'll just throw in a little shape. Just like that. And I'll keep it simple because the light's coming from up above. And that's how I start with shading. Okay? Anatomy is very overwhelming, and you just have to do one bone a week, okay? Now, if you're young and you're single and you have a lot of time on your hands, you can obviously do more than one bone a week. But you have to just, I'll close with this. Anatomy is a long-term study, and it's something that if you open up an anatomy book and you start to try to get it all down in a month, you're going to be extremely overwhelmed and you're not going to retain it. So you have to say, okay, in a 2-month period, I'm going to study all of the bones. And then maybe in a 4-month period, I'm going to start understanding some of the big muscles, the surface layer muscles. And then you're going to forget a lot, and then you start all over again. And you say, okay, I'm going to start once a week for like a half an hour, just draw one bone, and then try to draw the figure and superimpose the bone on top of the figure. And that's how you want to learn anatomy. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We're at an hour and 25 minutes. I'm going to put this live stream to bed. We kind of hit on a lot of things, and the things that we hit on primarily were understanding light and shade. All the different lights that you're going to confront: front, form, side, top, rim, back, and light from below. Okay, and then practice this out of your imagination on a weekly basis. Yep. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Aries. Thank you, Anna. Ileana, thank you so much for joining us today. Practice this, Ileana. David, thank you so much. Joseph, thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing your artwork in the critique gallery this week. Nancy, thank you so much. And Truffles is probably, sleeping somewhere else. I kicked her out. Thank you, Sabi. Appreciate that. Mr. ABA, Abba, thank you. Aura, thank you. And Barbara, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate that. Marie, hope all is well. Jean, thank you so much. Brian, appreciate your questions. Homer plays. You got it, man. Sandy, you got it. Awesome. Santytown. Wait, I can't even read that. That's so far away. Oh boy. Yeah. Why can't I read that? I have this big bright light going in my eyes. Holy Moses, that writing is so small. I need bigger glasses. Santi Ovine. Awesome. Every Saturday at 10 a.m. I go live, New York time. I live out on Eastern Long Island in New York State. Dana, thank you for joining. Noses. Okay, you've got it. Thank you, Jessica. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Saturday here on the live stream. And I'm going to do my very best to post up this underpainting on the website for you guys to watch if anybody is into oil painting. Yeah, you got it. Have a good week. Talk to you soon.